This episode is something truly special, not just because Hattrem evolves, but also because of how and why she evolves. We already knew that Hattrem is a very kind, gentle, and empathetic Pokemon who cares deeply about others. But this episode really drives this home by showing us just how selfless she truly is. Liko gives Hattrem head pats, Meowscarada gets jealous, and Hattrem doesn't get upset or try to compete. She simply steps aside and lets Meowscarada have the attention instead. During mealtime, Charcadet finishes its food and is still clearly hungry. Hattrem, who still has food left, doesn't hesitate for a second and gives it to Charcadet. Hattrem is not just kind in a passive way, she's genuinely considerate, gentle, and giving. She consistently prioritizes the well-being of others over herself. Her friends, her companions, her teammates, what they want and need matters more to her than what she wants and needs. And this kindness doesn't stop with those closest to her. It also extends to others. During the Ditto cube hunt, one of the Ditto they find is clearly uncomfortable with the way it's being handled. Meowscarada has it tied up tightly, and the poor thing is visibly distressed. Hattrem notices this immediately. She knows it's suffering and she doesn't hesitate to intervene so that it is released. Hattrem genuinely cares about even wild Pokemon she just met. Later during the Ditto cube hunt, she spots a shiny Ditto cube, something rare, special, and absolutely the kind of thing that would earn her praise if she brought it to Liko herself. But instead of doing that, instead of taking the credit and recognition, she quietly points it out to Meowscarada and lets her get it, allowing her to be the one who gets praised and congratulated for finding it. Hattrem is completely fine with stepping aside so someone else can shine. Yet another perfect example of her selflessness. She doesn't care about being in the spotlight. She just wants others to succeed and be happy. Unfortunately, she ends up being misunderstood by Liko. Liko initially concludes that Hattrem isn't doing what she wants. Instead, she does what everyone else wants. She constantly puts others first, always stepping aside, yielding, and prioritizing the needs and wishes of those around her. Because of this, Liko believes that Hattrem is holding herself back and suppressing her own desires. Honestly, I can't blame Liko for thinking this, because that's exactly what I thought too. Surely Hattrem wants affection from Liko. Surely she wants to be praised, to enjoy head pats, to savor her food. So it's easy to assume that she's denying herself these things just to keep others happy. Liko's concern makes perfect sense. However, again, this turns out to be a misunderstanding, and Liko realizes this thanks to Anne, who explains that she's a middle sibling, suggesting Hattrem is one too, which yeah, she essentially is. I love this framing. People often assume Anne doesn't get to do what she wants either, that she's always stuck between older and younger siblings, always compromising, always giving way. But Anne makes it clear that this isn't how she feels at all. She genuinely wants to make sure her siblings are happy and taken care of. This is what makes her happy. So Hatrim isn't sacrificing her own happiness for others. Making others happy is her happiness. She isn't holding herself back. She's doing exactly what she wants to do. She's kind, empathetic, and caring, not because she feels obligated, but because that's who she is and what brings her joy. This only makes her kindness feel even more genuine and beautiful. Following this revelation, Liko has a heart-to-heart with Hattrem, reminiscing about how they met, apologizing for not understanding her sooner, and expressing how happy she is to have Hattrem by her side. She appreciates her, cares about her, and is grateful for everything she does. This makes Hattrem cry, clearly not out of sadness, but out of happiness. She feels understood, seen, and loved, which is something we all want, right? Especially from those closest to us. This leads to an incredibly warm, tender, and heartfelt embrace and Hattrem's evolution. This is what makes her evolution so special. Usually, Pokemon in the anime evolve in one of two situations. Either in the heat of battle, when they are facing a powerful opponent and need to become stronger to win, often in response to their trainer's faith in them, or during a crisis, when their trainer is in danger and they need to evolve in order to save them. But this evolution is different. Hattrem doesn't evolve because she is battling or in danger or needs to overcome something or save Liko. She evolves because her bond with Liko reaches a point where her emotions overflow. It's an evolution born purely from emotional connection, from mutual understanding, from affection and the trust between Pokemon and the trainer. Honestly, I can't think of many or any evolutions in the anime that feel or are quite like this. It's not about strength or survival, it's about heart. And that's what makes Hattrem's evolution not just beautiful, but also genuinely special. And it's made even more wonderful by the fact that since Liko and Hattrem were embracing when the evolution happened, Liko ends up adorably completely under Hatterene's massive curtain of hair. It almost looks like she's wrapping Liko up like a blanket. So the hug doesn't just continue, it turns into this extremely cute, funny, sweet, and incredibly wholesome, charming moment that only elevates the evolution. Now, as wonderful, unique, and emotional as this evolution is, I do have to admit that at first, it felt a little off. Because if you know Hattrem and Hatterene from the Pokédex and the games, they are not exactly gentle, wholesome Pokemon. A huge part of their identity is the fact that they can sense emotions, and when they detect strong negative feelings, they violently silence whoever is producing them. Hattrem's Pokédex entries straight up state that it will beat down people who give off negative emotions, and that a single punch from her can knock out a professional boxer. Hatterene, meanwhile, is literally known as the Forest Witch, a Pokemon so terrifying and dangerous that if you wander into a forest and feel like you are completely alone, you're probably already inside her territory. Not to mention the Pokédex straight up says she will tear you apart if you're too loud. Yikes. Even in the previous anime, we saw a Hatterene that was portrayed as cruel and manipulative, tricking Brock with illusions and clearly enjoying that she was tormenting him. Having a Pokemon that is usually depicted as being eerie, violent, and honestly quite unsettling evolve into another such Pokemon purely through love, understanding, and emotional warmth feels a bit contradictory. Thankfully though, this episode doesn't forget who Hatterene is supposed to be, which is another reason why I love it. Soon after the evolution, the group follows a Ditto into a cavern filled with Dynamo and Electric. The Ditto gets into trouble, Liko and her Pokemon rush to help, and then an Electros appears. Hatterene calmly steps forward, almost as if to say, "I've got this." She walks right up to Electros, faces it head on, and then smiles in a way that is absolutely not comforting. It's a straight up sadistic smile, the kind that makes it immediately clear that this is not going to end well for her opponent, who looks like it realizes that it just made the worst mistake of its life. Even the Ditto, who was adorably embraced by Hatterene for safekeeping, is terrified of her. Hatterene proceeds to absolutely obliterate it using Psycho Cut, which is a really nice detail because in the games, she learns this move upon evolving, and one of her Pokédex entries explicitly describes her slashing foes with claws enhanced by psychic power. The anime is clearly being faithful to the lore here, and I love such attention to detail. But what makes this even better is that just like when she evolved from Athena into Hattrem, Hatterene doesn't simply defeat her opponent once and moves on. She defeats Electros, heals it, and then defeats it again. She does this several times while smiling, and then she just threatens it and its friends with doing something even worse, forcing them to stand down out of sheer terror. All of this is incredibly hilarious, quite intimidating and unsettling, and it's a perfect reminder of what kind of Pokemon Hatterene truly is. Don't let her gentle, love-filled, emotional evolution scene fool you. So, in one sequence, this episode accomplishes three things at once. It shows off Hatterene's new strength, it reveals she learned a new move and showcases it, and it reassures us that yes, she is still very much a Hatterene, kind and protective towards her friends, but utterly merciless towards anything she perceives as a threat. This is just brilliant. I also love how evolving changes her demeanor. Hatterene is noticeably more confident, capable, and forward than she was before. Right after evolving, she captures 3 Ditto cubes herself in record time, adorably keeping them under her curtain of hair like she did with Liko. She's the one who steps up to Electros without hesitation, and moments later, she openly competes with Meowscarada for Liko's affection instead of quietly yielding like she used to. She even has Liko feed her, something she obviously wouldn't have done before. She's no longer content to always stand behind others. She still cares deeply, but she's now willing to assert herself. At first glance, this seems to contradict the episode's message, since the lesson wasn't that Hatrim needed to become more selfish. But it actually doesn't contradict it at all. She didn't evolve because she decided to change who she was. She evolved because she was finally understood and accepted for who she already was. This newfound confidence simply flows naturally from that emotional fulfillment, and the episode immediately makes sure to show that she hasn't lost her kindness in the process. She clearly still cares deeply about Meowscarada and Charcadet, as seen when they gather around her in admiration, and Liko as seen when she looks up, wondering what just happened, and Hatterene just smiles at her, which is adorable. She hasn't changed for the worse. She's just more complete now, more self-assured, more willing to stand at the front instead of always staying in the background. Honestly, the way they handled Hatterene here is just about perfect. They respected the emotional weight of her evolution and the established lore of her species, and they used the aftermath to show real, believable character growth instead of treating the evolution as nothing more than a power-up. This episode also does a wonderful job of elevating Anne and her role in Liko's life. We already knew that she is Liko's best friend. They get along extremely well, support each other, and care deeply about one another. But here we see what that means in practice. They spend almost the entire episode together, eating, training, exploring, and hunting Ditto cubes. Then at the very end, they share a quiet, genuinely beautiful moment in the polar biome beneath a shimmering diamond dust-like snowfall of light. It's subtle but incredibly heartfelt, and it perfectly underscores just how close they are. What stands out the most, however, is how perceptive Anne is. She's the one who realizes that Liko misunderstood Hattrem, and she offers the insight that ultimately helps Liko see the truth. She doesn't lecture or scold her, she simply shares her own experience as a middle sibling and allows Liko to come to her own realization. She even calls Hattrem over so that Liko can finally have that heart-to-heart conversation, gently guiding the situation without ever trying to steal the spotlight. Heck, she even leaves to let them talk in private. Talk about being considerate. At the end of the episode, Anne reflects on how Liko used to bottle things up and worry on her own, but now she's surrounded by people and Pokemon who care about her and allow her to be herself. It's a small observation, but a very meaningful one. It reinforces just how important Anne is to Liko's emotional growth, and it rings so true after we just saw Liko express how she feels so powerfully. Anne may be a supporting character, but this episode makes it very clear how important and valuable she is to Liko and as a character, and how meaningful their friendship is. Finally, I love that Charcadet trains with Anne's Samurott, and later takes on multiple Dynamo and Electric, holding its own impressively. None of this is framed as a big dramatic moment, but it matters. Charcadet is the Pokemon on Liko's team that needs to grow the most, and this arc keeps reinforcing this growth step by step, so that when it eventually does something big, whether that's evolving or playing a key role in a future battle, it will feel earned rather than sudden. And if we want to be cheeky about it, taking down so many Pokemon probably gave it a healthy dose of experience points. So overall, this episode was simply masterful. Hattrem's evolution was beautiful, heartfelt, and genuinely unique, and it was handled with incredible care and tenderness. An evolution born not from battle or crisis, but from understanding, love, and emotional connection is something we almost never see in Pokemon. In fact, I cannot remember an evolution that was quite like this one. And I absolutely love that this episode doesn't stop being amazing here. It immediately showed us Hatterene's power, her new move, her much more assertive, confident presence, and that despite what made her evolve, she is still very much a true Hatterene at heart. She truly feels more complete now, more confident, sadistic, and stronger, while still being the same deeply caring Pokemon at her core. I also love how Anne is allowed to shine here, helping Liko grow and demonstrating just how powerful and meaningful their friendship really is. I really appreciate the irony that Liko, who is usually extremely perceptive and emotionally intelligent, is the one who gets things wrong this time and needs Anne's help to understand her own Pokemon better. It's a great reminder that growth never truly stops, even for the most empathetic characters. Add to this the continued organic growth of Charcadet, and you get an episode that is special, emotionally rich, and deeply significant. Honestly, this is easily my favorite episode of this arc so far. As much as I love big, high-stakes battles and crazy narrative developments or revelations, episodes like this that have a strong emotional core and real character development are just as important, and when they are done this well, they are absolutely unforgettable. I really hope we get more episodes like this. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, feel free to click the links on screen. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me keep making content like this, you can find all the ways to do so in the description and in the pinned comment. Whether it's through a small donation or just watching and sharing, every bit of support means the world to me. Thank you so very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.